So our first one today actually comes from the New York Times. I know it says Yahoo News, but New York Times wants money and nah. So New York Times, frustrated Californians may be ready for a tougher approach to crime. Let me come back here for just a second. Here's something I've said for a while, and it makes sense to the people I say it to, depending on who I say it to. Sometimes they're like, I don't know. When I think about politics, and understand this, I don't care who you vote for. I don't care if you're a liberal, a conservative, a lefty, a righty, a independent, libertarian, Green Party. If you're watching this show, I hope you're seeking out the information, like factual information. Now, I'm going to have my bias. I am definitely a right-leaning bias kind of guy. But as you're going to see here in a little bit, we're going to talk about minimum wage, and you might go, got kind of a lefty perspective on some of that stuff. I'm a free thinker. I don't have loyalty to a party. I honestly don't. There's a lot of people on the right I don't agree with. Like, I like Trump and what Trump did and what he's doing and what he's going to do. So I like him, but that doesn't mean I'm going to vote for somebody else just because I got an R next to their name. There's been Democrats I've actually rather thought fondly of, independents that I've thought fondly of, libertarians. In fact, before I voted for Trump, I voted for a libertarian, Gary Johnson. Seemed like a really good dude, had it together, and I sleep well at night knowing that I casted my vote for him. People may feel differently, but you know what? That's your thing. That's fine. I'm still going to sleep fine at night, with a CPAP machine because I'm out of shape and fat and stuff. But that's beside the point. Beside the point. But anyways, I love the fact that you're here. Conservative, liberal, I don't care. So understand when I go into these stories, yes, I'm going to have my own bias, but I'm also going to try to be as fair as possible. I don't think the mainstream media can say that. They're going to have their slant on it, either left or right or whatever. And they're going to lean hard into it, and they're not going to make their sources available. I'm going to do that. Before I get into this, this is something I'll have to say, and this is where you're going to get a lot of my own personal bias and observation from it. Okay, so this is an opinion piece. When I think about family structure, I think about the father being the more structured parent, disciplinary, and kind of creating the lane from which the family operates, the child is raised, kind of being the overseer of that kind of thing. As far as, like I say, the structure, the discipline, maybe even the reward, I don't know. Then I think about the mother being the more sympathetic and empathetic and loving and more from the heart, passionate, caring individual in the relationship. And I believe that it takes both to have a successful upbringing of a child. I think it's crucial to have both of those elements, and fantastic. That being said, I look at our political system, and I look at our Democrats, and I look at our Republicans. And Republicans are kind of known to be the law folks, right? Like, hey, we're gonna stick to the law. We're gonna lock people up. They're the more masculine, the more structured, discipline, follow the rules, kind of create the lane of which all traffic flows and everything is supposed to be. Whereas the left seems to be more passionate and empathetic, sympathetic, and all that stuff. And, we're not going to arrest people. We're going to let them go. But then bad stuff happens. And then the right has to come in and clean that up. And then the left is like, okay, well, too much law. And then it pushes back. And then they start electing people from the left. And then things get out of hand again. Then they elect people on the right. I've heard several different commentators speak to that as far as like, having a wartime president. You want a conservative as a wartime president because they tend to handle that better than a Democrat does. And I definitely see pros and cons to both. I think it is great that we do have both, and hopefully we can eventually get back to finding some middle ground instead of either my way or the highway kind of thing, either far right or far left, and no meeting in the middle. We got to find that meeting in the middle because I think that's where we find our harmony, and that's where most people live, at least in this country. I think most of us live closer to the middle than we do on the far edges. Not everybody, obviously. You may be at one of the two ends of the spectrum, and that's fine. I think it's a little odd, but whatever. My point is, I wanted to throw all that out there because what I'm going to say in this article is going to, kind of reflect that thought process anyway. So, frustrated Californians may be ready for a tougher approach to crime. So, kind of my little note is like, California turning red? Because that sounds like more of a conservative approach. Like, we want to be tougher on crime. You're not really hearing that from Democrats right now. It's more defund the police, get social workers out there instead of cops. Let's not lock somebody up because of X, Y, Z. Let's let them go. But we see what that crime has done, not just in California, New York, and all over the country. We see what's happening at the border. So again, that may be some of my, personal bias showing, but that's the way that I have viewed the two parties on how they're kind of structured from a structural standpoint, if that makes sense. And I don't know if that does, but we're going to go ahead and look at this real quick. I think it might be a lengthy article, so I'll do my best to cover as much of it as possible. Again, the link will be in the description below, so you can go check that out, but I will kind of run through it so we're not here all day just checking out one article. But again, this is from New York Times. It says, deodorant, shampoo, and underwear are all under lock and key in many stores in California. Retail clerks are often told to ignore shoplifters after a handful of store employees who confronted thieves were assaulted or killed. Video clips of smash and grab crews snatching armloads of merchandise have gone viral. Yes, they have. We've even covered some of that. Californians of all political stripes have become fed up with the problems plaguing supermarkets and retail stores, not to mention car break-ins and open-air drug use. Some top Democrats, including San Francisco Mayor London Breed, have joined conservatives in denouncing a cascade of smaller crimes that have contributed to a sense of lawlessness in major cities. Now, the state's lawmakers and voters are weighing what to do. With public sentiment in the state shifting toward stiffer punishment, California finds itself debating whether to roll back decade-old changes that sharply reduced the state's inmate count and made it a leader in reducing mass incarceration. A coalition of law enforcement figures, business owners, and relatives of fentanyl addicts want to reverse the 2014 ballot measure known as Proposition 47, which reduced penalties for shoplifting and drug possession. That measure has been blamed so often for the state's crime woes, that it is among the few past initiatives that residents can identify by number, right up there with Proposition 13, the state's landmark property tax limitation, and Proposition 209, the state's prohibition of affirmative action. This is all sounding very conservative-y. With financial, well, not what they've done. What they've done has been very liberal, but I mean, the frustrations with it sound very righty-tighty, if you get what I'm saying. With financial help from giant retailers Target, Home Depot, and Walmart, the coalition has gotten a ballot measure qualified for the November election that would impose harsher punishment for crimes that result in lighter charges or no prosecution today. Let's just stop right there and talk about it for just a second before we get into sicko Gavin Newsom. But Target, Home Depot, Walmart, these organizations getting behind this is a big thing. Why is that, Chris? Well, because they want to make money. The only way that they're going to make money is to have stores that can open and function and be profitable. In places in California, New York, Chicago, I know we can argue about this, but large cities, which are predominantly run by Democrats, fair enough. So maybe it's a large city thing. Maybe it's a Democrat thing. I will say the punishment for crimes follows the Democrat part more than anything else. So, because of the influx of crime, shoplifting in the parking lots of these establishments, these places getting broken into, gosh, think about Black Lives Matter protests that I know Target, I've seen several times getting broke into, burnt down, stuff like that. Yeah, these people want to be able to open their business and operate. And when they have to pull out because their businesses are getting ransacked and they're not profitable and they're losing their ass, wherever they are, you got, these Democrat congresswomen from the, I can't even think of what they're called. Not the crew. What are they called? The clique, the whatever they are. AOC and Rashida Tlaib and all of them. Anyways, I don't know why I can't think of what they call them. The squad, whatever they want to be called. That's cute. But you got them coming out saying, well, CVS is leaving certain cities. They're blaming theft, but we just know it's racism. Well, look at Target pulling out over here. Must be because they're racist. Race may play a role in it for you when you evaluate it. When you say, oh, well, this is a largely, let's say, black community, and these businesses are pulling out. You ask the businesses why they're pulling out, they say, because of the crime. One may have to do with the other. And I definitely won't tell you that black people by nature are more destructive or whatever than white. Definitely not. Look at the history of the world, right? But within these communities, you see that. But it's that easy target. Oh, well, you can't pull out because you're going to affect black individuals and families. Oh, you can't pull out because you're going to affect, in this community, there's a lot of gay people in this community, and it's going to negatively impact them. Oh, but over here, it's an impoverished area, and if you pull out, yeah, but that's where the crime is. Why would I open it? Why would I, as a business owner, open a business somewhere that the people who shop at my business are doing less shopping and more shoplifting? Little bunny for
get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
So, why would I do that? Why would you do that? You wouldn't, because you're not an idiot. And I know you're not an idiot. I don't care if you're a liberal, a conservative, if you're new to politics, if you're completely independent, you are watching this makes you not an idiot. You would not open your business in a place where you are 90% sure it was going to get shoplifted largely on a regular basis. Now, don't get me wrong. Every business has a tendency to have some shoplifting, either externally or internally. That is accounted for. They figure that into the budgets and everything like that because it's going to have that kind of shrinkage. Trust me, I've spent most of my adult life working in retail. I've made stops with loss prevention. I've assisted them in stops. I know I've busted some of my own employees. It happens. All that being said, it's one thing to have a few $100s stolen here and a few $100s stolen there over, months or years or whatever. It's another thing to have your store consistently ransacked, completely destroyed, merchandise stolen, and basically having to start over and over again. So these businesses coming out in support of this coalition are doing it not just of their own greed. I'm not trying to say that they're greed, but they want to have businesses in those areas. Yes, they want to open up businesses and be profitable, but it also allows them to serve those areas. So you would think that people on the receiving end would want that as well. The problem is that those voices have been hushed and pushed down more so than the ones that are like, I'm going to shoplift if you open up over here. So, there's that. So it's exciting to see these businesses get on there because maybe these politicians and the folks that are more influential will listen when it's not just a bunch of screaming, constituents out there who politicians rarely ever listen to. But you got these huge businesses, Target, Home Depot, Walmart. Those are pretty big names right there. Maybe it's time to listen to them. I don't know. We're going to keep reading here. We're going to talk about America's favorite governor. Many Democratic state leaders, including Governor Gavin Newsom, the snake oil salesman, have acknowledged the state's crime problems. Newsom was captured on a hot mic, oh my goodness, in February, describing a shoplifting episode at a Target store in which he witnessed a man shoplifting without being confronted by anyone. I was like, why am I spending $380? Everyone can walk the hell right out, he said. Yeah, because of your laws. that you pushed.
Dumbass.
Just saying. But Newsom and Democratic legislative leaders say changing Proposition 47 is the wrong way to go. Of course it is. It might hurt somebody's feelings. They argue that the new ballot measure would result in thousands more incarcerations at a cost to the state of hundreds of millions of dollars at a time when Democratic leaders want to close prisons. They want to leave Proposition 47 intact and pass legislation in August that would tighten laws on retail theft and repeat offenders. Who cares how many people are incarcerated? If they break the law, and I said this last week about Trump, about these other, we were talking about Gold Bar Menendez, right? If he broke the law, charge him, hold him accountable. If he goes to jail, he goes to jail. Trump, if he broke the law, hold him accountable. If he goes to jail, he goes to jail. I do not care your political party, what your last name is, who you're affiliated with. It's not about equity. It's about equality. Politicians don't get held to the same standards that you and I do, but they should. That's equality. These people out here, lock them up. They don't have a problem giving millions upon millions, if not billions, to illegal immigrants coming into this country that are breaking the law just by being here and not crossing over at a port of entry. They don't mind talking about spending millions upon billions of dollars in reparations or other stuff like that. But they can't spend millions to incarcerate dangerous criminals. And I emphasize that because, yes, I understand shoplifters may not necessarily be dangerous, but you got to understand this goes beyond that. We're talking about dangerous criminals are being let go. New York is a great example. We've seen that where people get locked up all the time. They're like, I'll be out in 24 hours. And they are, and they go kill somebody. Imagine if we applied the law and punishments and incarcerations, whatever, like we should. Those animals, and they are animals. If you kill somebody, you're an animal. Call me sexist, racist, phobic, whatever. If you kill somebody, you're an animal. Let's just put it out there. That's what Chris thinks. Let's lock them up and leave them locked up till they serve their time. And look, I'm gonna slide over to the left real quick and say I'm perfectly cool with having social workers or whoever in the prisons to try to help reform these people. I think this should be an opportunity to correct, not just punish. Yes, punish, absolutely punish, because they need to be punished. But if they are going to be freed at some point, if they're not serving a life sentence, they're going to be out in the real world again. That being said, it would be great to reform them, to help them get back to being a productive member of society before they're released. I'm completely down with using taxpayer dollars to fund something like that. I think that would be a great use. So, whereas I may lose some conservatives on that, I don't think I'll lose that many because I think conservatives are compassionate about stuff like that. But yeah, maybe I'm dipping over to the other side. I don't know. But I think that's fine. But we still have to punish the wrong. We still have to punish the wrong. We got to be a little stricter, guys. It says Proposition 47 reduced most drug possession crimes to misdemeanors and raised the threshold for thefts to be charged as felonies to $950 in property or more. See, why is that a thing? Why is that a thing? If you are in possession of a drug, I don't think you should be penalized nearly as much for what you're doing to yourself as you should be if you're stealing anything from someone else. I kind of have the you do in your bedroom what you want to do kind of mentality when that goes. You want to take drugs, you want to like cut yourself and stuff like that, go do it. Have fun. I hope you get help. I would love for you to see you get some help. But you've got to make that decision. Because at the end of the day, the only person you're hurting is you. You can say you're hurting family and stuff, but directly the only person you're hurting is you. And I would rather you do that than to go out and destroy businesses, take someone else's life, assault, in a sexual way. You guys know what I'm saying here. Somebody, there's just so many things that people are doing that, yes, I would rather you be at home doing whatever to yourself. I would rather you not do that at all. But if it was one or the other, yes, don't hurt innocent people. I think that's fair. I think that's completely fair. That being said, I'm okay with not punishing drug possession, but yet still punishing theft of someone else's property. But I digress. It says the measure allowed people to get out of prison early if they were incarcerated under the old laws, and it reduced the number of people sent to prison. It also funneled hundreds of millions of dollars to services for people returning home from prison. Okay. Helping to reduce the rate of recidivism, according to a study by a state regulator. So again, I'm fine with that. But in California, they were going to put in like public toilets. One public toilet was going to be like $5 million or over $1 million. It was, I don't remember how much it was. I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong. Fact check me. But it was like this absolutely insane, ridiculous amount because the people building it had to get a license, and then they had to get approval, and then they had to get code. And there's so many different people that got money along the way from the political side. It's just a stupid game. So that's more taxpayer dollars being wasted. I would rather see that being used over here to help rectify situations with prisoners getting back out in the world. So let's see. I saw Newsom's name. We'll jump down to that. Newsom, by then distracted by national politics after Joe Biden's disastrous debate, quickly abandoned that effort, saying they could not get it done in time to place it on the November ballot. At the same time, negotiations with the Tough on Crime coalition to kill the more sweeping initiative failed. They refused, opting to instead push a ballot measure that would revive policies from the era of mass incarceration and the failed war on drugs, Newsom said. I don't think those two should have been tied together in that proposition, so it shouldn't have been that hard to undo it. That's my opinion. I think we've kind of beat this dead horse here. I don't believe this goes into too much more that is worth discussing, but I do encourage you to read this article for yourself, whether you read it from the link below that points to Yahoo News, so anybody can read it because there's no charge for that. Or if you're a supporter of the New York Times, you can go check it out from them. But yeah, it does feel to me that people are waking up and wanting to have more protection. Maybe they want to see their streets get cleaned up. They want to see criminals be punished. How shocking is that? They want people that aren't criminals to be able to live their lives and just walk down the street without having to worry about getting mugged. A lot of this is very based conservative views coming from a very blue state. Now, I have heard people say, and I haven't broke this down myself, so maybe I should. No. So I have heard that California is not too dissimilar from a lot of other states, that if you look at county by county basis, it's a fairly red state. But when you look at the population, those bigger cities and whatnot, they just overwhelm with how blue they are. That's what somebody told me. There's a lot of red in California, but it's those blue cities, just like in everywhere else, like in Georgia, Atlanta, and mini Atlanta, Macon, blue cities, and I mean, that's cool, whatever, I guess. But yeah, that's where they need the red the most to kind of push through this. And again, whether you're conservative or liberal really doesn't matter. I think we can all probably agree that when it comes to law, orderly conduct, pushing for structure, maybe we can't agree, but I'm going to say anyways, I think the right does a better job at that. I think the left is more compassionate about stuff, which has its place for sure. But I do think the right is more structured, more disciplinary, and really does a good job of all that. But let me know what you think in the comments below about that. I would very much so be interested to see what you guys say, whether you're liberal or conservative or whatever. But let me know down in the comments below what you think. And I hope I didn't beat anybody up too bad on that one.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out this clip from the Morning Mayhem. Remember, this is just a portion of the full show that comes out every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. If you hadn't already, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the full shows or these tasty little nuggets.